Alright, this is a tutorial on how to replace the battery, the BMS, and the ESC. So first of all, we are gonna get your adv2 on the table, bring it up to the working height. Don't just put it on the ground because it will hurt your back. Okay. Now let's turn this bad boy here. And first of all, you have to remove your fenders. Those are very easy to do. You just have to remove 8 of the screws. And you can lift the whole thing up. And now let's move on to remove the foot pads first. So to remove the foot pads, you are gonna need, let me first introduce all the tools you're gonna need, which is T25, T20, T10, and you're gonna need a Phillips screwdriver, the big one, and you're gonna need a small Phillips screwdriver. Alright, let's get started. First of all, we need to change the bit to the Phillips screwdriver and remove 4 of the screws holding on the foot pad. 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's set those Phillips screws away. And now we need to flip the board over to remove the bumpers. Okay. So to remove the bumpers, you're gonna switch to the T25 tools. Okay, and we are going to and once you've done all 4 of those screws, the foot pad is gonna drop off. You need to hold the foot pad and set it aside. And let's continue. And now you can lift the front bumper and set it aside. Put it here. You can just leave all the screws on the bumper. That's easier. And now let's do the same for the rear bumper. Okay, now we need to hold the board. Okay, now remove the rear bumper. You're gonna feel a little bit of resistance, and you're just gonna hit it. And now you can set the rear bumper aside. Again, just leave all the screws inside the bumper. And now you can remove the rear foot pad. And now what we're gonna do is we are gonna remove the 8 screws holding the front forks to the front lead. Okay, to do that, you have to change the tools to T20. Okay, let's change the tools to T20. Okay, those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's 8 screws to undo. And now, some of the screws you can remove and hold it in your hand, and some of the other screws are hard to pick out. You can leave those screws inside where they are, and once you flip the board over, those screws are gonna drop on the table. And that's the time you to collect those screws. And now let's set the screws aside as well. And do the same for the rear boxes. That's 1, 2, Okay, that's all eight screws undo from the front box and the rear box. And now we can carefully flip this thing over. And notice that when you flip the board over, the screws are gonna drop out. So you want to do this slowly. You can see they are dropping off from the other side of the board. And now we need to switch to T25 tools to remove the front and rear cover. Okay, now I'm holding the T25 tool. Now we need to undo those 4 screws, holding the front lead to the rails. Okay, that's 4 screws. And set it aside. Those are countersink M5 screws. And let's do the same for the rear side. Also T25 tool. And now you need to use a little bit more of the torque to undo the screws. Okay, that's 4 removed for the battery cover. Set it aside. And now we can lift the rear side cover off and set it aside. And now we're gonna push the bolt back here, and we are going to flip the lid to the wheel like this. When you are flipping this, be very careful, because there is a chance that your antenna, Bluetooth antenna, is connected to the front box here. So you need to be really careful when you do it. And now, first of all, we are gonna undo this red cable here, that long red cable, and this is gonna cut all the power to the ESC, so we can operate safely. Remember, if you are in this step, you have to wear a pair of rubber gloves to insulate yourself. Otherwise, you can get shocked from the electricity inside. Okay, now we can just pull this red cable here, pull it out like this, and now we can start to. And usually your antenna is connected. Your antenna is sticked on this side of the box, and now you can just go to this module here and undo your antenna. Just gently use the tweezer to pick this up and lift it, so your antenna would stay sticked inside your box like this. Okay, we will send you a new antenna inside the kit, so you can, if you break the old antenna, you can just stick on another one. Okay, those can be breaked very easily. Okay, now I set my antenna aside, and now we are just gonna quickly disconnect all the cables. First of all, those 3 cables are for the motor. We're gonna disconnect the blue one, could be a little hard, and also we're gonna disconnect the green cable and the yellow cable. Those do require some forces, and now we are gonna remove the small cables. Okay, so here we have a cable that's coming from the rear boxes. Those are the rear lights. You can see yellow, green, blue ones. They are for the rear boxes, and they're going to the rear boxes for the rear lights. Okay, now let's disconnect those. And also disconnecting this BMS cable here. This is the communication wire for the BMS. You just have to pinch it and lift it up. Do not just yank it out of the place. You have to pinch it first. You can see there is like a buckle thing here. It just buckles up here, and you just have to use your fingers to pinch on those connectors and lift up. Now you have removed the communication wires for the BMS, and now we can remove the charging cable. Okay, this is the charging cable. You can just pull, and that's coming from the charge port inside the controller. And now there's some other cables to pull, And there is this Hall sensor cable. This goes through your motor. This is your Hall sensor cable. You need to pinch this tab and lift up this cable like this. When it doesn't want to come out, you can just wiggle left and right and pinch on the tab here and then left and right move it and pull it out. Okay, now you can see we are left with a black cable here. This is the battery minus terminal coming into your controller, and we can just undo it here. And there is one cable here. That's your front light cable. And remove it just by pinch it and remove it. And now you can see it's basically free from the front box, but there's one more thing to do. Okay, you need to pull this and take it out like this. Alright, that's your front ESC assembly removed from the box. And now we are gonna set it aside. For the first batch of the boards, you're gonna get a free improved version of the power stage, which is the lower side of the ESC. You're gonna get an improved version of this from us. And later I'm going to show you how to replace that, to install the new improved version of the ESC lower stage. Let's set this aside and move on to the BMS side. Okay, for the first batch of users that have the board would turn on with just some static electricity, that was due to our charge port was designed too sensitive. So if there is any static power near it, it could be just your cat running around, it could be just you wearing some fur and rubbing on the floor, it could be just anything that carries static power, static electricity. The board would think there is a charger plugged in, but actually there's not. So it's way too sensitive, and it causes the board sometimes to turn on randomly just from some cat running around, and that's bad. So we have redesigned the BMS a lower stage to solve this problem for you guys. And you will all, the first batch of boards are all gonna receive an improved version to nerf the sensitiveness of the charging port. Okay, so that's when you're gonna need a new BMS lower half to solve this issue, which we will send you later. So let's move on to how to replace the BMS. When you are working on this, like a row of these will be perfect. And you can just put it under the board so you can lift it up to the working height. So first of all, we are gonna disconnect the sampling cables. Now first, you have to push this tab, this black tab. Let me use a tool so you can see clear. You can push this tab back like this, and also do the same for this side. Okay, just put it out like this, and now the sampling cable is loose. You can use your finger, it's very critical here. Just do as I show you, otherwise it could get really bad. Okay, I see sometimes you remove it out and you get hesitate sometimes, and the cable just come back into the plug, and you know this plug carries huge amount of battery power and lots of different voltage lines, and so you have to be really careful when you move it out very quickly, and do not hesitate this. And the correct way of doing this is that you push your fingers on the cable, press it down and press it out like this. And now you can block your thumb here to prevent the cable from re-entering the plug. And now you can release this finger and you can pull this out like this. Now you can see my board actually has the V1 battery pack. The V1 battery pack does not have the temp sensor built into the pack. So what do I have here is an external battery temp sensor here. So for the people that you are gonna receive the battery or receive the V2 kit, that has the V1 battery pack, you're gonna get an external battery temp sensor that's gonna stick to the side of the battery pack. Okay, for the ones that are receiving the adv2, you probably have the latest version of the adv2 battery pack, which has a temp sensor port here. It looks something like this. And you can disconnect this sensor port by just doing the same. Just put on this side and put on this side, put both sides, and you can get it out like this. Get the cable out like this. Okay, and now with both of those cables out of the way, you can release this black cable on the side of the battery pack, on the right back corner here. So you can just lift the whole thing up. Usually it's tucked in like this. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna remove this from the battery box, and you're gonna hold it with one hand, hold this side of the cable, and you're gonna pinch the other side, and you're gonna just pull. Okay, and you can see now they are disconnected. And what I usually do is that I would just pick this line, this cable here, and drag the battery out like this. Okay, so sometimes I would push my finger into here, and I will lift the battery pack up like this. And once you lift up your battery pack, you can grab it down, shove your hand in there, grab the battery pack, and lift it up like this. So now there are two cables connected to the battery pack, and now we are going to just set the battery pack on the board like this. And now we are gonna remove this cable of the communication cable for the BMS. We're gonna just grab this cable and lift up. There is no buckle here. You can just grab the cable and lift up. All right. And there is obviously some other wires here, which, for example, this charging cable here, you can just use your fingers to clamp down this side and put on the green cable here. And that's cable undo. And do the same for this side to the black wire and this green wire here. Just pull it like so. And now, normally, you would find you're gonna need a T10 tool to remove those two screws holding down the battery bracket. Now, it was designed so that whether you do those screws, they are gonna be fine. So if you do not see any screw here, they are fine because it was designed to be clamped down by the rear battery lead. So as you can see, my prototype here does not have those two screws installed. If you have those two screws installed, you're either gonna need a Phillips screwdriver to undo those two screws, which is here and here. And sometimes you're gonna have a T10 screw here, Torx 10 screw here, and also you're gonna undo those two screws. And now, what I usually do is I will find some small screwdrivers, and I will shove it down here just a little bit, and I will just pull like so. So the whole BMS tips forward, and now you can grab the whole thing out. And now we can disconnect the rear light cable, which is very long here. Disconnect the rear light cable. And now you can see this is the whole BMS assembly and the rear light assembly. What you're going to do is that you are going to undo this, and this 4 screws here. Those 3 are going to be T10. And this one is going to be Phillips screwdriver. And once you undo those, let me show you just a moment here. And you need to grab the BMS firmly in your hand, or if you have some vise, you can clamp it with a vise. Okay, just undo those 4 screws. also, the last one here is a small Phillips screwdriver. Just undo it. Sometimes it's really hard to remove it. Let me just find a bigger Phillips screwdriver to remove it. Okay, I have successfully removed this. And now you can lift up the whole upper half of the BMS. Now you see, this half of the BMS is responsible for detecting your battery and balancing your battery and report all of your battery informations into some protocol that we have on the lower half. And on the lower half, we are gonna see an isolated CAN driver, and we are also gonna see our BMS microcontroller here. And what we're going to do is that we're going to replace this one, this lower half of the BMS. Okay, this half is going to be alright for all of the writers, though they do not have the program inside that was written by us. Those were written by the FAE chip company. And setting aside, we're not going to do anything to the upper half. And now we're going to grab a special tool to remove those 4 columns that holds down the lower half of the BMS. Just using a plier. Usually this is not the right tool, but this is always the tool you're gonna have in your house. You can just undo it, and the rest of it can be done by hand. Just grab it and twist it. And now I'm just gonna remove it quickly here using some power tool. It's not the right tool. Oh, by the way, when you are removing this, you can see there is a little washer here. Do not lose this washer, okay? This is a 0.5 millimeter washer to lift up this copper column. Here, you can see this is the washer. Collect those washers so you do not lose them. And there's the last one here. Okay, that's the last one removed. Okay, now you can just grab this cable, grab the lower half of the chassis of the BMS, and you can just lift up like this. Okay, that's your lower half removed. And now we are gonna grab the BMS that we sent you, and we're gonna install it here. So first of all, the BMS you are gonna receive is something that does not have those thermal pads. So what you're gonna do is that you want to reuse those thermal pads. Is that you're gonna need some knife down there to remove this thermal pad to reuse in the new BMS that we send you. Okay, just grab this, and we are gonna do the same here. You can see there is a whole chunk of thermal pad here. You can just shove a knife into here and gently lift it up. Okay, that's the thermal pad removed, and now we can put it on the new one that we sent you. And also there is a plastic cover here you're gonna remove, and you can keep this one as a spare. But as you can see, we have the programming port here. If you have access to a programmer, we can send you the new firmware. But considering that most of the users do not have the programmer, so we would rather just send you this whole PCB here. You just redo a batch of those PCB and send you. And now you receive the new PCB. Now let's assemble it together. Just assume this is a new PCB. Actually, this is just the one that I just removed, but it has the newer programming to nerf the charge port sensitiveness. Okay, all right, we're gonna install here. Install the thermal insulator pad here, like this, and we're gonna grab this thermal pad here. Gonna put it here. Give it a little tap, and also there is this one that you're gonna install here. This is for the power diode on the BMS to dissipate some of the heat. And once this side is done, actually you can flip it over and put it back into the casing like this. Okay, just make sure all the screw holes are aligned. Now we can put this whole thing here, this whole glue here, like so. No, it's not like this. It's gonna be something like this, because you're gonna see a mark here from this part. Okay, so this part is gonna be very hot. That's why it needs some thermal dissipation under it. And this whole goo of thermal compound is for this diode here. Okay, now let's assume you have your new BMS lower half installed like this. Now we can put back the copper columns to lock down the lower half to the chassis. Okay, now we need to grab the copper column like this. You can see there's a washer on it, and we are gonna put it inside the four corners here. You can just use any tool here. Just put it down there, and rotate it for the first few halves with your hand. And later you can just use the special tool. Later you can just use the special tool that we sent you. Just remember, there is a washer between this column and the PCB here. Do not fuck this up, okay? If you don't put this washer here, it's gonna result in your upper half of the BMS bending a little bit because there is no enough room here. Anyways, there's gonna be a washer here, okay? Just remember to putting a washer here between the PCB and the copper column here. And now we can just tighten those things up with the tools that we have. Okay, let's grab this washer, put it on the column, put it on the screw here. Come on. Okay, now it's on the screw here, and we can grab this whole thing. It's a little bit harder to do when you are having this rubber glove not fitting your hand. Now we can put back this copper screw here. Remember, there is gonna be a washer. We can just use this Phillips screwdriver and finger cross this would work. Now it could be a whole lot easier with the right tools. And I'm gonna tighten this up using my pliers here. Okay, very easy. Just do the same here for the other side. grab a washer and put it here. And tighten this up with a plier. When you receive this, you should receive a special tool to just deal with this. Otherwise, it could just be pain in the ass to not have the right tools. Okay, last one here. You can just put it on top of the screwdriver like this and shove it in. Okay, now I'm gonna use the pliers to tighten this up. Alright, that's your lower half installed. Make sure it has this black thermal insulative pad here, and it also has a bunch of really tall thermal pad here. And now you can grab the upper half of the BMS. As you can see here, you have some really delicate pins. That's the pins between the upper half and the lower half, and you can see a connector here. You can see a connector here. That's gonna be the receiver of those pins. Now you can put it here like this, and make sure you eyeball those pins and make sure the pins go into the correct positions of the socket. And once they are in the correct position, you can just press here to make them mate together. And now we grab the one flathead Phillips screws and we grab it. We are seeing reports of people saying this screw falling out. I'm not sure why that is, because in my version of the board, this screw has some Loctite on it. But it could be that in the final assembling, they replaced to another screw. So if you have any Loctite here, you can put a dab of Loctite into the screws here and install these screws, just in case it falls out. Now you see the right up corner of the BMS screws are gonna be those flathead Phillips screwdrivers. Put it in here and use the power tool. Do the same for the other screw here. Okay, when this whole thing is done, it should be like this. You have a really flat screws on the right upside corner here, and you have those 3 silver Torx screw here on these 3 corners. And for the people that are gonna replace their battery packs, and I'm gonna show you the tutorial as well. So in this step, you're gonna disconnect this cable going to the battery pack. You have to pitch the underside of the cable and put it out like this. And now there is only one cable holding down the battery pack, which is this blue cable here. Now you can disconnect this cable here and remove the rear battery pack. Once the rear battery pack is removed, the whole board is gonna lift up there because there is no weight here. So be careful. So that's it. Now we can remove this battery pack and we can take out our new battery pack. This is the new pack, and we can drop this in. Before you drop this in, you have to remove the BMS as well, just to make sure that there's nothing in your way. Okay, let's put it aside here. First of all, You can see there is a very short blue cable here coming out of the battery pack. You can connect this to the red positive cable here. Connect it here. Push it in. And now you can connect this sampling cable coming from the front box to the battery pack as well. Take this cable out and plug it into here. Plug it into here. Okay. Once that is all done, you can put the battery here, and you can route this a rear light cable under here, under this groove here, like this. Make sure this cable is here and here. And now you can make sure those two notches align with this slot here. You can put it in like this and push it down. You're gonna hear a pop. And now let's plug this cable. Now we can plug this rear light cable into here. Push it in like this, make sure it locks. And now we can flip those two wires out of the box. Make sure that your battery goes inside with nothing stops it. Okay, now let's tidy up this cable and connect this red thick cable to the black cable here. Okay, that's connected. And now you need to push all these cables down here. Make sure this cable comes out like this. Make sure you push all the cables down here, like so. Make sure it's snug. And now we can connect this cable here. We connect this cable here. Make sure you see the cable color. Make sure you see the cable colors are like this. And you have the red one on this side, you have the brown one on this side. And you plug it into this port here. Like straight, plug it into here. And now you can flick this cable down here. Like so. Yeah, that's how you tidy up this cable here. And now you can connect this cable here. And put it here. Make sure it's tidy up like this. Okay, you need to be perfectly sure that this plug is gonna be the only thing that's here. And this plug is tidy up to here, to this corner. Okay, and now we flip it to the side and we drop the whole battery down. Make sure it's not like pushed in like this. Make sure they are flipped to this side. Just tape it here temporarily. Okay, now we can make sure again, we make sure this cable is really tidy up. Otherwise, it could shove into this battery here and cramp this battery here. And now we can put the battery down. Okay, when you put the battery down, you want to make sure this sampling cable goes under the battery pack like this. Okay, so you just align for it and use one hand to push this cable down here. And oh crap. Okay, now the whole battery pack is seated. You can push down a little bit more. Make sure it's fully seated. Okay, perfectly seated. Now you can see this cable is sticking out a little bit. You can push it down here and tidy it up. Make sure this cable is connected as well. This is the communication cable here. And now we are going to replace the front battery pack first. Okay, now you're gonna need a T10 tool to remove all the 4 screws holding down the front battery pack. To do that, you just simply remove those wires connecting the front battery pack, including this blue cable here and this sampling cable here. Okay, to remove the sampling cable, there is a buckle here. You have to push this tab down and pull back. Push down, pull back. Sometimes you're gonna see a dab of glue here. Just remove the glue first. And now we can remove the 4 T10 screws holding down the front battery pack. Now we can remove the front battery pack, set it aside, and grab our new battery pack. Okay, here we have our new battery pack. The red cable is going to be this side and the blue cable is going to be this side. Now we put this battery pack inside the box, align the screw hoses. Now we can install the 10 T10 M3 screws to hold on the front battery. Just gently, do not tighten those up yet. Just make sure every screw are catching up the threads. Okay, that's done. Now, we grab this white, red, black cable and pushed it inside this sampling port here. Once it's put back, we can dab a little bit of glue here, silicone here, to hold it in place. And now we connect this red cable to this blue cable here. Red to blue, connect it here and tidy it up like so. Yeah, that's done. That's the front battery down. And now let's move on to the rear. Okay, that's the replacement battery. Okay, first of all, once this side of the cables are all connected, we do not connect this first. We connect this cable first. Okay, now we grab this cable. Usually what I do is I grab this cable here and I use my thumb to hold it here like so, and I grab this cable here and I shove it in like so. Just push it against this wall here. Yeah, that's connected. And now we can tidy this thing up like so. Just cramp it and shove it in there. Should be good. Okay, now we need to grab our battery sensor, which is a temperature sensor here. We're gonna grab this cable here and we're gonna shove it up here. So make sure you see. Okay, I'm gonna undo my glove to do this because it's getting very clunky with this glove here. Okay, make sure. Let's move this thing out of our way. Okay, so make sure you see the blue part of this FPC here. This is the silver part where you have all the contacts, and this is the part that's on the top, which has a blue little plastic. And now we need to undo this plug, open up this plug here, and we are gonna plug it in here. Just align it really carefully and shove it all the way inside. This is probably the most tricky part, is getting this cable inside this connector. Okay, it's in. And once it's in, you wanna wiggle left and right and push it in as inside as possible. And now you make sure it's all in, and now you can close this connector. Yeah, it looks good to me. And now we can roll this cable here and put it inside this canyon here. Okay. Now it's the most dangerous part. If you get this part wrong, you're gonna damage a battery pack and possibly a BMS. So we want to be really careful on this. First of all, we make sure this whole pin, every pin is very clean and shiny. And we open up this plug like so. And you can see I'm doing it with my bare hands, so I can see it I can do it precisely. Okay, we open this tab here and we grab this cable. Grab it with your middle finger and your thumb like so, and we push it down like this, and we can move it left and right to aim for the right position. Okay, now you're gonna see from the top, you're gonna hold it with your index fingers, and you're gonna hold it here, push it down and push it forward. Aim for, you can align this side with this side here. Okay, now you can see it's perfectly aligned, this side and also this side. And now you can push it in carefully. As you can see, it's moving a little bit back as I push in. Okay, when you are here, you are perfectly aligned. Push it all the way inside. Do not hesitate. And now you can close this tab with another finger. And that's how you connect this sampling cable here. And now you can roll this cable here down, put it inside here like so. And when you see it from the side, it should be something like this. Okay. And now we can put this here and go work on the front of the box. Okay, so now we are gonna work on the front of the ESC. As you know, you're gonna replace the improved version of the ESC. So we're gonna grab our T-cam tool here, and we're gonna undo the 4 screws holding down the top half of the ESC. But first, we're gonna remove this beeper here. It's sticked up here. Remove it like so. And now we're gonna undo the 4 screws. And then we can hold the upper half of the ESC and wiggle, and it will come out like this. Now we can remove this and set it aside. And now, as you can see, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the screws holding down the lower half of the ESC. This is gonna be your power stage, and this is the this is the thing that you're gonna replace to a revised version, which it can handle so much more current than the ones you have right now. And then you just grab those capacitors and leave it up like this. And you are gonna take this thermal pad and apply it to the new one that we sent you. And we just have to reuse this thing, and you can, once you install this, once you applied the thermal pad, you can install the new lower half of the ESC, and you can install the 6 screws on its original places. Notice that do not set the torque too high when you are installing the lower half of the ESC. And we are gonna grab our upper half of the ESC and we're gonna put it here. Just make sure the capacitors go through those cutouts here. And push it down. And now we can grab our white spacers and put it on the corner. Lift it up a little bit and put it on the corner. It's a little bit hard to do with gloves on. Okay, so now we can put on this screw here and we can torque this down. And now let's grab another spacer, put it on this corner. Okay, gonna grab our screw here and torque this down as well. Okay, grab another spacer and put it here between the 2 layers and grab a screw. Go through this. And the last one here, putting the spacers and putting the screws. And now the beeper sticks on the capacitors like this. Stickers stick on the capacitors. And now this cable plugs in to the middle port here. This cable coming from the footpad is gonna plug into this port, the middle port. Do not plug wrong. Plug it in here. And this is the smart light bar. As you can see, this cable, smart light bar cable, goes inside this corner here. Do not just switch those up. Plug it in. You're gonna hear a click. And now basically we just have to put this whole thing back. Okay, what we are going to do is that we're gonna put it here like so. Oh, first of all, let's install our antenna here. Okay, it's plugged in. Make sure this is flush. This is flush here. and put the front lid on the board like this. And first of all, we are gonna connect the shortest cable, which is this cable, to the switch here. Okay, this is the switch cable, the power switch cable. It goes inside on this port here. This is the power switch port. And now we connect the hall sensor port here. This is the hall sensor. And this is the BMS communication wire. Let's plug it into here. Okay, and next, this is the rear light cable. Let's connect it with this cable here. And this cable goes to here. This whole cable goes like this. Yeah. And we are gonna connect the blue cable to the blue cable. This is for the motor power. Connect those up. Make sure you align this dot here. And do the same for the green cable here as well. Make sure this nipple shows up here in the hole. Same here, nipple shows up in the hole, like this. And now we are gonna plug in our charge cable, which is here. Plug in to here. And we plug in the black cable to the green cable here. This little tiny green cable is our charging cable. Pop it all the way to the bottom. And this black cable connects to the black cable here. Okay, that's connected. And lastly, we're gonna connect the front LED cable, which is this white cable. Connect it here on the corner. That's the front LED. And this is the rear LED. Okay, so now we are gonna power this thing up by connecting this long red cable to this little battery here. There is not gonna be a pop, thankfully. And now we just tie these things up a little bit. Usually I just leave my antenna unconnected, just flopping inside. So if I have to remove anything, it can be easily removed. But for most of you guys, I recommend that you stick your antenna here to get better connectivity. Stick your antenna here to the side of the box, like this. Okay. Okay, now we are gonna test to see if all things power up. Okay, you can see it's powering up. Very good. And make sure your power switch can switch between different brightness. Okay, that's all good. Okay, now we are gonna put everything back together. Oh, before you close everything up, you're gonna go to your phone and make sure all the battery specs are okay. Make sure you can see temperature of the battery in the BMS page. Make sure you can see every single cell voltage in the BMS page. I'm just gonna do that right now. Okay, before you put everything back together, you go to BMS, make sure all the cells are showing up here from C1 to C20. And you scroll down here, make sure you see all the temperature readings of the battery pack. And now we can go on with our building. Now we are gonna install the rear of the board. Just place it here and grab screws for it. Flip the board over to protect some of the other screws. We're gonna switch our tool to T20, like so. Grab our T20 screws, put it in here. That's A for the front, A for the rear. Okay, that's 8 for the front, and let's do the rear. Okay, that's all 8 down for the rear and 8 down for the front. Now we are gonna install the foot pad first. Okay, so we grab our rear foot pad here, switch to the Phillips screwdriver, and put the screw here. Do not torque those too hard, just gently put the screw in. Otherwise, you're gonna damage the foot pad. Okay. Let's grab our front foot pad here, align it here, and grab 2 screws here and here. Okay, now let's flip the board over. I want you to make sure that when you flip the board over, you do not catch those two, because if you lift this thing up, it's gonna damage here and here. Okay. When you installed the front and rear foot pad, you need to flip the board by this handle here. See, flip it here and grab it. Flip it here. Do not just grab those things and flip this. It's not gonna work. Okay, move it around like this, and put back our bumpers. And now we need to switch the tool to T25 to install the screws. And I'm gonna use 7 for this job. And we install the front bumper as well. It's very easy. That's it done. Folks, that's how you replace the battery pack, the BMS, and the ESC. Thank you for watching, and hope you ride happily and safely. See you.